everybody, welcome to another edition of Calling All Devs, our weekly Q&A series where I take questions from you. Who are you again? The Star Citizen backer. Pose them directly to our developers. I tried to do a thing there, but it's early and I messed up. On the show today, we are starting things off with one of my absolute favorite people, partner in crime, person I didn't get to spend nearly enough time with when I was in Frankfurt, Germany, Dan Truffin. Dan, how you doing, man?
Hey, Jared. All good here. How are you?
You know, I'm not sick, so I'm finally
That's good.
over 3 weeks of plague and my tooth
Oh,
exploding when I was in Germany. I'd finally
yeah.
finished putting my molar back together. All right, I got a question for you. I got two questions for you. These are submitted by the backers, voted on by the backers. Let's just get to it. Mining. Every week in ATV, we have an update on mining. First it was planet-side mining. Then now it's asteroid mining. This person's like, I need more mining, Dan. They're asking, is mining on foot with tools, is that an option to be implemented in the game?
Yes, it's an option. We are looking into it. The only problem here is that we can't do everything at once. So
always the
right now
problem.
we're focusing on asteroid mining, getting this out the door to you guys as soon as possible.
Mhm.
And the next one on our list will be salvaging. And since that is a complete new thing that we're going to tackle, that will take a bit. And once that's done, as far as I know, we're scheduled to go back to some of the mining stuff, and we definitely want to look in FPS. There's two things that we would like to look at is FPS mining as an assistance to ship mining, where you find a rock that is way too resistant to actually break on your own, and we're thinking right now that you can get devices that you have to EVA and mount onto the asteroid in various critical positions that will lower the resistance. They'll generate a field around the asteroid, which will lower its resistance, and you can now mine it on your own without having to call 3-4 friends to break that rock. So you get all of the stuff on your own. But the fun part is that you're alone in that prospector. You have to get out. You EVA out of your prospector. You kind of have to leave it floating there. It's a risk. So it's
when you said adding FPS to ship thing, the minute you said get out, I thought you were going to say and push.
No,
You have to get out and push.
No pushing.
Come on, rock.
I'm sure some people will try to do that. This is Star Citizen after all.
Yes.
The other thing we're thinking of is actual FPS mining, as you'll be able to walk on the planet and find various valuables. We still don't know what the mechanics for this will be. We just know that eventually we will get to look into something like this, because everything we do, we try to do ship side and FPS side, and there needs to be content for both type of players.
Gotcha. Like maybe an attachment for the multi-tool or a specific tool or a specific tool.
Some kind of drill. Yeah.
All right, cool.
It might be that it's rarer materials and maybe even more valuable with a
needs a
more
lower precise
yield, more precision work. Yeah, a big laser would melt them down.
Okay.
So it might even be that we put them in the same rocks that you already can break with your mining laser. So if you break them with your ship, you lose those precise materials that you can get by FPS mining. So if you take your time to get out of your ship and go there and check if there's actually anything to FPS mine, you might get more goodies, more yield out of that entire rock. If you break it from the first thing and you just rush, you might just get the basic stuff.
I like it. All right, so not in the immediate future. Once we wrap up asteroid mining, get that to a place where we think it's playable, and I've seen the demos and stuff like that. It looks great with the way it's breaking up, and all the subcomponents go unevenly between all the components and stuff to kind of chase down the things.
Yep.
I like that. But after that, you start work on salvaging, and salvaging is currently scheduled for an early 2019 release, if I remember the roadmap right now. I don't have it directly in front of me. All right, cool. Second question, and this is even farther out, and I apologize. Is stealing data, and this comes up because you talked about it in the town hall for the Star Runners. So it's your fault. Is stealing data just interpreting transmissions, or can info runners also hack ships' data cores remotely?
So definitely, we want to go towards the hacking thing. It's something we've had our eye on for a while. It's just that there's so many things to do before we get to do that.
I love that you were like,
There's
definitely we want to do that.
because
I love that.
we want to. It's one of these things that there's quite a few designs on this, different designs. So we have either of those will make great hacking gameplay. It's just a matter of getting the time and actually implementing, prototyping them a bit and seeing which one plays best. And once we get that, we go with one and we go into full production with it, and then we can get this type of gameplay. But we want something like this. We want to be able, again, since we're talking mining earlier, it's an example is a miner is sitting on a rock and trying to extract everything out of it. Then you can come in a stealthy ship and start hacking him, and you find out that he has a database of whatever 5,000 rocks that he knows the location of. He's just going through them and extracting all the goodies.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a Breaking Bad joke. I apologize. I'm almost through the 5th season right now. Continue.
So you can extract that data of 5,000 rocks and just go, I will sell this to the highest bidder. Who wants this new data? This miner might have worked or paid for that data like half of his fortune, because he knows then he's going to make so much money out of it. But now you stole that data, you can sell it to a highest bidder or to your friends in your organization who are also miners, and suddenly that guy will get out of 5,000 rocks might get 100 because you're faster and you have a bigger fleet and you're strip mining everything. It depends, and we also have to look into ways of protecting yourself against this type of thing, because we don't want it to be just I push a button and I win the game of hacking. It needs to be a balance.
Yeah, always. And probably want to stay away from things like QuickTime events. Push B, push Y.
No
QuickTime events.
None of that stuff.
Last week, people were asking for increased gamepad support. QuickTime events, people. Like, no.
Especially when it comes to hacking, we're kind of trying to stay as realistic as possible. Hacking is a mind game. It's a logic puzzle. It's always something you have to rack your brains to solve. So it's not going to be whoever pushes the button faster wins the game. Definitely not.
Okay. Cool, man. Thank you so much. That's more than as usual. It's more than I could have anticipated. So thank you so much, Dan. I'll let you get back to work.
All right.
Thanks. Take care,
Bye.
man. Okay, thanks so much. Now moving on for 2 more questions to one of my other favorite people, the man with the red boots here in our Los Angeles office, Kirk Tomei. Kirk, how you doing, man?
Hey, good, Jared. How are you?
Good. I hope you don't mind that I spoiled your red boots for people. People never see your feet in these things.
Please don't let that information.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't say anything, people. Cool. They're really cool boots, though. All right, I got 2 questions for you. They're ship questions, which is one of the reasons we're here. Of course, you touch a lot of avenues of Star Citizen, but you're the guy for this. Okay, right off the bat, Origin 350R. Specifically about the 350R, it says, now that the Origin 350R is getting significantly bigger, and I'm not sure it's getting significant, but we'll get into that, can you tell us what kind of racing it is primarily designed for? Will it be able to compete on the same kind of tracks as the Misk Razor or the M50, or is it designed for a different kind of racing?
Okay, so don't know exactly where the, like what indicated that it was going to be significantly large, but strange enough, I was just looking at it in our game dev stream, and it's actually not that much larger. So as far as like the rear wing profile and the length and like just its overall cross section size, it's only like maybe a meter larger in each of those each of those axes. So it should fulfill exactly the same role as it did. It'll still be one of our fastest ships that are in the game because of its twin engine setup. So nothing about it should change as far as racing is concerned. What I will say is that the perception of it being larger might be because the body itself has been tweaked and
reshaped.
Right, in the horizontal range. So kind of like the TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside. So there's a lot more room to put components. There's a place to properly put a bed rather than the kind of camping like fold out accessory that it had before. So but overall it will not change as far as its it's like the spaces it'll fit in.
Gotcha. And as far as its racing role, which is primarily what the question was about, how it compares to the Miss Razor and the M50, we anticipate it'll have many of the same strengths and weaknesses that they do now.
Right. So while it is larger than those two ships, so it will suffer a little bit from the maneuverability as far as compared to other ships, but it will still be the fastest ship in the fleet.
I know. It was the second ship I got. My first ship was the Andromeda. My second ship was the 350R.
Really? Wow.
Yep. It's always had a soft spot in my heart. That's it's that rear engine setup, man. I don't know why, but I bought it for looks. All right. The second question: when will we hear anything about the RSI Lynx Rover? I was surprised to see this one come because we haven't heard anything about the Lynx Rover, and I'm guessing because the Phoenix is coming online with 3.3, people are and the Archimedes was added to the roadmap for 3.6, if I remember correctly. It's on a lot of people's minds. So what can you tell us, if anything, about the RSI Rover or Lynx Rover?
Sure. All I know is it's because it's a smaller scope vehicle. It does tend to get shuffled around a bit in the schedule, but looking here, it's currently scheduled for mid-2019. So that's where it is at the moment. Unfortunately, I really don't have a lot more info about it than that.
Yeah. One of the things, this is a good chance to offer up that when you're talking about the smaller ships that maybe one or two artists can work on, usually just one artist, those are often used to fill in gaps in things like between the bigger ships that take so many more resources. So it has the opportunity to move. They all have the opportunity to move. I don't have to tell anybody that, but maybe a little more subject to change than others. But it is currently on the roadmap for mid-2019. So you guys will probably see that show up on the roadmap as the roadmap continues to progress and push out further into 2019.
Right.
All right, man. That's it.
Okay.
How
cool.
you doing otherwise?
Fine. We're getting ready for CitizenCon, obviously, but and so there's a lot of work to do. But everyone's pretty focused, and we're just trucking along.
You're telling me I was in a 45-minute meeting about furniture this morning.
Awesome.
So it's dominating all of our lives. All right, but it'll be a good show. CitizenCon tickets on sale now at citizencon.com. If you're gonna mention it, I'm gonna plug it.
Sounds great.
All right, thanks, Kirk. I'll let you get back to work.
See ya.
All right, later. Well, that about does it, but one more thing before we go. I want to talk a little bit about how the questions are chosen each and every week, because we've been doing this show since January this year. I'm very proud of it. I think you guys seem to enjoy it a lot from the views and the comments and whatnot. But I want to talk a little bit about how questions are chosen every single week. Every week I'm here saying, go to the thread, submit your questions, vote your questions. That's the first part of it. But after that happens, I have to take those questions and I have to find the developer that's responsible for that area. When we do that, we then explore the answer. Is the answer that we have satisfactory? If the answer we have is satisfactory, if we feel reasonably confident that this is the direction we're going, we make the show. If the answer we have is not particularly satisfactory, it's still a bit too in flux. And while I admit every answer is in flux, and I give you those disclaimers every single week, we do try to meet a reasonable threshold of we're pretty certain this is where we want to go with the thing. The only certainty in game development is change, of course. But if it doesn't even reach that thing, if it's still in flux, if it's still being discussed, if it's still dependent on too many other systems coming in place before we have a concrete idea, we have a choice at that point. I can either come on here and I tell you it's too early to know, and we do that quite often, or if it's something that might have an answer relatively soon, like, oh, we're actually scheduled to have meetings on that in the coming weeks. We're hopeful to have an answer to that soon. Like, we hold on to it because I don't want to throw it away with a non-answer and then we don't come back to it for months or even a year. So I pursue that week after week. So sometimes when you see a question that's voted up and it's like, why aren't they answering that? That's because week after week I am pursuing the answer for that with our developers, having meetings, email chains, Skype calls that aren't recorded, and so like that, trying to flesh out that answer. In the rare case, the subject of a question is a little too big for the purview of our tiny little deep in the warehouse based show. A good example of this was the when is the Squadron 42 roadmap question, which we eventually answered on an RTV, and the answer came from Chris Roberts. That's the place where that kind of answer should come from. When it's a big, overarching project scope thing, that's a little too big for our tiny little show here. And that's stated in the OP for the thread each and every month. But not everybody reads the OP. They just jump right into the question. So I know how the internet works. So I just want to talk a little bit about, if you're sitting there and you're submitting a question week in, week out, over and over again, every single weekend, you're like, why isn't it being answered or whatnot? It's not that we're ignoring it. We are actively working behind the scenes to get you your answer. This is me. You guys have known me for about 4 years now. You know I'm not going to ignore the question. It's just, it might not be the time. And if I'm going to try to get the answer to the question either into ATV from the right person's mouth, or I'm going to try to get the answer into RTV by having Chris on. It's not always going to come from calling all devs if it's beyond the purview and scope of this show. So I just wanted to speak a few minutes about that. Now we're actually done. Thank you to Dan Truffin and Kirk Tomei for being on the show this week. For calling all devs, I'm content manager Jared Huckabee. I'll see you next week, everybody.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.